Hello everyone, it's James O'Keefe in front of the infamous Veritas wall of shame, where the journalists' reputations go to die, where they're forced to print retractions about us in articles questioning our journalism ethics. Very ironic. That's why we call it the wall of shame. Now today, I have the most amazing retraction of them all because it comes from the paper of record, the New York Times, also known as the Old Gray Lady. All the news that's fit to print. Very interesting. In fact, this comes after an alleged or an attempted Sunday hit piece on Project Veritas. The hit piece failed. Cue the Retracto theme song. Retracto, the correction of Hacker. Retracto, he's coming at you. Again, New York Times, Sunday attempted hit piece, front page, above the fold, talking about our investigations into these groups. Attack liberal groups, the New York Times reports. So here is the front page attempted hit piece, ex-spies to help infiltrate liberal groups. It says the New York Times got the age wrong of one of our reporters, originally reporting, quote, Ms. Jorge 23 did not respond to email addresses associated with her Liberty University account. There's the screenshot. The article also stated the information they obtained was, quote, detailed in internal Project Veritas emails that have emerged from the discovery process of a court battle between the group and the union not previously been reported. Both of these things the New York Times got wrong. They were forced to print a retraction. They promptly issued the retraction within 28 minutes of us contacting them. And the retraction reads, quote, an article on Sunday misstated the age of Marissa Jorge. She is 25, not 23. By the way, this is a pretty lazy error to just, someone graduated from college a couple years ago and they just referred to the age she was when the documents were obtained from a couple years ago. Just lazy, incompetent reporting. But the correction goes on, and this is where things get very intriguing.
He says he doesn't have a horse in this race, but Retractor knows he does. Now he's got egg on his face. The donkey's on the left got owned by a kid. They can say it was a crime, but Retractor knows what he did. Retractor.
The correction says, quote, as the article stated, the information came from source interviews, not documents in a lawsuit. There's the rub, as Shakespeare would say. Let's digress into this situation. So this last part of the New York Times retraction is critical. We have been sued by the AFT Michigan, the American Federation of Teachers in Michigan, for doing investigative reporting. Our reporter unearthed documents in the AFT Teachers Union investigation showing a teacher allegedly sexually molested an 8-year-old girl, and that teacher was still allowed to teach. We had an obligation to publish the documents that our reporter found because we felt the public had a right to know. That's what journalists do. So now I'm going to play the actual video investigation that we published that mentioned the disturbing allegations, all of which were swept under the rug. Go. This Lake City area schools document from the Office of the Superintendent, Kimberly Blasak, corroborates the statements Johnny Mickles made to our journalist about what happened in the young girl's bedroom. Quote, it is alleged that the teacher engaged in a course of inappropriate conduct with one of the district's female students, Jane Doe, who was aged 7 or 8 at the time, entered the student's bedroom during the night. While in the bedroom, the teacher uncovered the student and lifted her nightgown, grabbed the student's underwear, and attempted to pull the underwear down. It is alleged that these incidents, or similar incidents, involving inappropriate touching happened at least 5 and 10 times. Everything you just saw was selectively edited out of this front page New York Times article, those documents, those allegations, the alleged sexual abuser, allegations about what he did to that 8-year-old girl, and the documents showing those allegations. That was all edited out. My question for these two New York Times reporters is, why did you edit that out? Were you afraid if you published what was in those documents, it would sort of prove our point that we were doing reporting, that we were unearthing things the public had a right to know? But that's not all. Our undercover reporter also filmed Johnny Mickles inside the AFT office, the union field rep in the office, saying the teacher got the payout, confirming what was in the documents regarding the settlement, and even said that teacher could still teach. Johnny Mickles said, quote, he knows what he did, unquote.
He was on leave anyway with pay.
He was?
He got to be on leave until they drew up the settlement, and then he got like the rest of the school year's payout. He got about 6 weeks of pay, I think. And then he got the $50,000 payout. He knows what he did, and if he did something inappropriate, he knew it came back on him.
But like, you didn't give him guidance because there was no hearings. You were just like, let's resign.
No, David Hecker, myself, my cousins, and the local president.
So you heard David Hecker's name there by Johnny Mickles. Well, David Hecker was the president of the AFT, and his deposition, which we released on social media, admitted the goal of this lawsuit was to, quote,
have the lawsuit in any way possible stop Project Veritas from doing the kind of work that it does.
There is only one way. The New York Times got copies of our emails, some of which were redacted. That was if the AFT Michigan gave those emails to the New York Times. So when they quote our emails, and you see the quotes there in the print edition of the Times, nothing in these emails I'm ashamed of, by the way. We're very transparent. They're obviously getting these emails and the quotes in them from the AFT National or the AFT Michigan. So that's why the New York Times changed it to, quote, emails have emerged from the discovery process of a court battle between the group and the union, to, quote, the information came from source interviews. They're quoting emails in a discovery. The sources had to read the emails. It's kind of an absurd retraction. It seems as though the AFT requested the New York Times retract the real source of the information because they don't like the optics of leaking out lawsuit emails to the New York Times. How are they quoting from our emails, including the redaction, but not for the attorneys giving them? By the way, we publish the depositions on Twitter. We don't care. We're transparent. They're doing it in a sneaky way. Now, just to take a step back, again, this is about an 8-year-old and what allegedly happened to them. So, and the executive editor, Dean Baquet, who runs the New York Times, well, he has a little bit of a personal grudge against me because a couple of years ago, he was reduced to ad hominem attacks against me, saying I'm despicable, who runs despicable operations. Here's Mr. Baquet.
For those of you who saw it, it was an undercover operation in which James O'Keefe, who I think is a despicable person who runs a despicable operation.
I really think the personal grudges by the executive editor of the New York Times are beneath the paper of record. And commentators agree. Here's one commentator saying this whole thing reads like a sloppy opposition research dump rather than real investigative reporting. They rushed this whole thing out. They rushed this whole article to print after I called them on Thursday of last week asking, what are you guys doing? You're calling all these people. And they requested a comment. They said, get us a comment by this afternoon. They had to get a comment within hours of me calling them. So I called the New York Times reporters on Thursday, and it appears as though we forced their hand because they say, we need a statement for you within a few hours. So they were rushing to get something out. And I gave them a statement, and they printed 15 words of my statement. You could see the words on the screen there from the print edition of the New York Times. True story. I gave them a statement that was 700 words long. I mean, this is patently absurd. At least they didn't have the gall to report in this front page attempted hit piece that we selectively edit, because they selectively edited out 98% of the statement that I gave to them, including selectively editing out the contents of the documents and the 8-year-old girl. So perhaps the craziest thing about this front page New York Times hit piece is the New York Times literally contradicted their own reporting. In 2016, they reported undercover video appeared to show them plotting to incite violence at Trump rallies. That was what the New York Times reported. But in this front page article, they report, quote, Trump claimed without substantiation that videos released by Mr. O'Keefe showed Clinton had paid people to incite violence, unquote. They literally contradicted their own reporting. And in the videos that the Times reported on 2016, there's Bob Creamer of Democracy Partners saying it was the candidate herself, Hillary Clinton, that was behind this through the chain of command. Play that tape.
Hillary is aware of all the work that you guys do, I hope.
The campaign is fully in it.
And then they tell Hillary what's going on.
Well, I mean, Hillary knows through the chain of command.
In the end, it was the candidate, Hillary Clinton, the future president of the United States, who wanted ducks on the ground. So by God, we will give ducks on the ground.
So it's wow.
Don't repeat that tape.
So there you have it, folks. Retraction number 311. The New York Times contradicting their own reporting, omitting sexual assault allegations in the documents that they're reporting on, and making a bunch of retractions about things that they were too lazy to confirm. Retraction number 311 will be put on the wall of shame. We're running out of room. It'll be put up there right next to the wall of shame, next to the gold frame showing the Washington Post retraction. Listen, all of this could be avoided if the journalists just stick to the facts. Just do your jobs. Stop lying to the people. Stop being that which you project onto me personally. Just do your jobs. It would certainly make my Wednesday easier. I wouldn't have to piece this whole thing together and publish this video. But we're going to keep making retraction videos. I think, John, we have another one coming from Politico, like this week. It just never ends. And if we don't hold them accountable, who will? Who will? But not for Project Veritas. Stay tuned.
Projection, or he's gonna demand a reaction. We need the news, not projection.